Okay, we can get started here, and we will share this recording too with everybody afterwards and for those who are not able to jump on right away today. But thank you everyone for coming. As usual, before we begin, we're going to go through a few of our chapter updates. So for those of you who are new to the call, as EDPA Northwest chapter, we are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to advance the interests of members engaged in the design, production, and service of exhibits, events, and experiential environments. And if you don't know me, I am Emma Kristen, and I want to give a shout out to the rest of our amazing board members. So we have Taylor Freckleton with Fusion Imaging, Anna Rembold with MedEvent, Mel White at Classic Exhibits, Nicole Klein at Exhibit Expressions, and Jenny Cohn with Condit. And then we also need to thank our supportive sponsors, Aluvision, B Matrix, and CSI, our platinum sponsors. And then we also have Taylor Visual Impressions and they're celebrating their 35 years this year as a gold sponsor. And so if it weren't for their kind financial contributions, we would not be able to provide you with these beneficial events. And upcoming on our docket, we have a few save the dates to highlight. So on August 9th, we are planning our first fundraising event. It's an online webinar where we will be playing a virtual bingo. And because it's being hosted on a Friday afternoon, we invite you to bring your favorite drink to play along. And all the proceeds will be donated to the Randy Smith Memorial Golf Classic recipients. We are still in need of prize sponsors for each round, so if you are interested, please let us know, and we hope to see you there. It should be pretty fun. And then on September 11th, we have our annual face-off with the Texas chapter for our Texas Trivia Night. And then in October, we will be attending an in-person career fair to support the future workforce efforts. We are still waiting for the fall semester to begin before locking in a date. If you are interested in participating, we would love to have you be a part of it. And last but not least, sorry, hold on a sec. There's a few people in the lobby. I'm going to admit them in. And last but not least, in November, we'll be hosting our last webinar of the year. And as we have a few topics in mind, if you have one that you are really interested in, let us know and we will take that into consideration. But otherwise, we do have a couple of topics that we might pick from. And one of our commitments this year was to host a webinar every other month. And so as I had just mentioned, if there is a topic you would like to discuss, please let us know. These have been very beneficial events this year, and so we will probably continue it into next year, so please keep us posted. And then today we have Heidi Mills with Anchors Away. So Heidi Mills is a professional organizer and a former member of both the National Association of Professional Organizers and the Association of Professional Photo Organizers. She earned her BS degree from Babson College in Wellesley, Massachusetts, with a concentration in marketing and communications. After 10 years plus of working for both large and small corporations, she decided to leave the corporate world and follow her passion for organizing. In 2010, Heidi created Anchors Away Organizers. Early on, Heidi discovered a love for organizing, beginning with her childhood bedroom to organizing the marina store where she worked in the summer. These skills carried over into her professional career, where she wore many hats in a smaller office in the last 10 years of her corporate career. From managing the coordination of trade shows her company attended to designing and implementing a purchase order processing system that reduced lead times for customers by more than 2 weeks, organization has always played a key role in Heidi's success. Currently, Heidi has been focusing on helping women entrepreneurs to get their home and office working efficiently with systems and solutions tailored to work for their individual needs. She loves to help clients declutter and organize their belongings, time, and emotions to create peaceful and productive environments. offering solutions for clients to get the most out of their spaces and in turn living a life they enjoy. Her goal is to pass on organizational skills and develop systems so that you can stay organized with the routine maintenance and reduce everyday life stress as much as possible. See new possibilities with a clear space and positive energy. So thank you so much for joining us today, Heidi. And with that, I will pass it off to you. Let me stop sharing there. And there you go. I think you're still muted.
All right, is that better?
Yep, there you are.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, we were testing this out when Emma and I first got online. My computer seems to not be able to handle the meeting, so I'm looking at my iPad and my notes are on my computer. So, and the camera on the iPad may follow me around a bit. I'm trying not to have that be a little crazy. But thanks so much for having me. I'm excited. It was great to be introduced to Emma. I thought it was kind of interesting that I got asked to talk to your association because I did actually help do a lot of trade shows back in my day. My old company did software and cameras for microscopes, and we had to literally set up giant microscopes all around the country and a lot of parts to organize and keep track of. So I always had a lot of fun doing that. So yeah, my business is Anchors Away Organizers. As Emma said, I do love for sailing. That's where that came from. And my talk today is called Set Sail for Success, Calming the Chaos. I found a quote that I love, and it's so funny. I was like, is it really from Jimmy Dean? But apparently Jimmy Dean must have been a sailor because he said, I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination. So today we're going to take you on a little bit of a different adventure when it comes to organizing and productivity. Um, yeah, I've taken years of my corporate and small business experience and combined it with my lifetime passion of organizing to help business owners and entrepreneurs and just people in the business world, because I know there's so much to organize when some people are more paper heavy, some are more digital heavy, and it all just ends up being a lot. So many of us often have stories that hold us back by anchoring us to the past, making us fear the future, or preventing us from living in the present. Some of us are trapped in the belief that there is never enough time. I hear that a lot. Most of us are stuck in a state of being overwhelmed by chaos, confusion, and commitments. Always looking at the calendar. It's another C word that's full. And, we all want more peace, prosperity, productivity, living in our purpose, enjoying what we do, but not having the overwhelm that goes along with it. So I help people to simplify, systemize, and streamline for success. So today I'm going to share with you 3 success strategies I call it doing it differently. And at the end of my talk, I'll have opportunity for us to connect further if you have any questions. So the question for you is, how many times have you heard in the organizational world, keep, donate, and toss? The 3 elements that I focus on are space, the energy in our space, and our consciousness around the stuff we have. So we're doing it differently. The first D, and if you have the handout, I know Emma emailed it out. Everyone has it.
Yeah, and I can share it here on the screen too. I have it pulled up here. So can you guys see that now?
Yeah, I can see it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So,
I got some
right,
thumbs
cool.
up. Okay, thanks.
Nice. So the first D stands for diving into the deep end and mastering the mind. Number one thing that holds us back is our mindset. Our mindset has an impact on everything. So everything that you have in your life, everything you think, you believe, all those things is where we are now. And everything that we desire, our aspirations, our goals in business and in life is where we want to be. So between these 2 worlds is the gap. This gap represents the beliefs that hold us back. So on your handout, if you could take a moment to check those that apply, or if you see those, just think about the things that might hold you back, especially when it comes to organizing. I know I fall into this. Sometimes I'm not good enough. I don't have the skills to do this. Why is it so hard? I should be able to do it on my own. So just thinking about those ideas of what it is that holds us back sometimes from being more productive or being more organized. Um, I have worked with people that are type A and they may have a system, but then sometimes it falls apart because of changing in life. Um, so the reality is when you're in your own crud, it's hard to see your way out. This clouds our ability to see solutions, make changes, and to create the environment that we love to be in. So we create attachments. These are emotional attachments to the stuff that we have. These come in form of memories, shared experiences, memorabilia, and sometimes in the business world, it's not, it may be depending on what rules your company has when it comes to letting go of papers or where to store things, and even digital can get overwhelming with pools being saved in different areas. So in many ways, we often see our stuff as part of us, but as humans, we're here to grow, to change, and evolve. And our life changes. So, which by the way is a good thing. We will outgrow people, places, and things over time. When we hold on to things, it has old energies. This is where the energy bar comes in. It can stunt our growth. It keeps us from receiving new opportunities, new people, places, and things in our lives. So when we open up, we allow new things in. And I actually did have one of my coaches calls a triple A client. She was very type A and she actually was pretty organized. But when it took her 3 years to come around to talk to me, I had met her and then she kept checking in with me. But she was just completely overwhelmed by the paper, the information that was used for the tracking of her moving company and all the vehicles that they owned. They owned not only the moving company, but all the vehicles to go along with it. And when she hired me, it was because she had this belief that she should be able to do it on her own. And there's sometimes shame and guilt come into that. So I worked with her to simplify and have a system, and we streamlined her for success, which allowed her to, in the long run, actually, she's currently selling her business, and it's been an amazing transition because all the information she had to pass on, we had it in a system where she can literally just pass it over. And the new person coming in was really worried that they were going to have to recreate everything, but we had it all there to go. So when you have a system that really works, it's great to be able to pass information to whoever needs it next. So when you're looking at this next part on the handout, the biggest thing that I always come back to with clients is having the right questions when it comes to letting things go and having less to worry about. So when it comes to stuff, the number one question I actually got from a client is, would I move with this? And even in an office setting, I know in my last company, we moved and it's a lot of stuff when you're moving. So just having a question that might resonate with you when it comes to having to let paper go, or stuff with paper and digital. My favorite question that I got when I am certified with a group that's called the Productive Environment Institute, really specializes with how I learn my paper system. And the best possible question I think is, what's the worst possible thing that can happen without it? When you're really thinking, where does this need to go? Do I need to keep it or not? And time, when you're looking at your calendar and there's so much going on between work and family and personal life, does looking at whether the activity that you may be putting in your calendar and thinking about, does this align with my values? Is it really something I want to say yes to? And try to eliminate all the no's that you might not really want in your calendar. And then when the mental and mind space, if you're having a tough time working on a project, there's a lot going on. I always like to just take a minute, step outside, just refresh your mind. You can literally change your energy and vibration in about 2 minutes or less. So one of the things I learned too from a coach I loved is, what's one of the most exciting experiences you've had that really just made you feel on top of the world? Maybe just take 30 seconds to breathe, think about an exciting thing that's happened to you and how you felt in that moment, and then bringing that feeling into what you're doing, what you're creating. And so in business, especially because I know you guys are all working hard to be in the trade show and the stuff that you're coordinating. Um, if you have a lot of paper, there's only 3 questions that you can write this down. There's only should be 3 questions or 3 types of paper that you should be dealing with. The first is, does it need to be filed? The second is, is there an action required? So maybe that's an action paper that something is in the, we say the ball's in your court, it's waiting for you. And the third is, does it need to be tossed? Generally, if you have paper and you're overwhelmed on your desk, just make 3 piles. Is it the file? Is it an action? Or does it need to be tossed? And sometimes that can also tie into email. One of the things I do with email, I have 4 main folders, and I learned from someone a long time ago, if you put the at symbol in front of it, it keeps it at the top of your folders if you have folders in email. And really, for those, I have 4. There was 3 in action. Again, if there's an action that needs to be taken, you can put all the action emails in one area. If there's something you need to read, it's like industry information, something you're trying to keep up with, but you don't have time right at that moment when you're processing email, you can go into the read folder. I added a listen/watch one. Now we have so many webinars and videos, podcasts to listen to. I put one of those into mine. And then the last one's waiting or pending, depending on what resonates with you. You know, maybe it's you've sent someone an email and you're waiting to hear back. And so I would put emails in that. Maybe are waiting on something that's been shipped, but it hasn't arrived yet. So things like that into waiting. So that is diving into the deep end when thinking about mindset around our clutter and the things that we're trying to organize. And now we move on to I, which stands for island time. I don't have enough time in the day. I have to do everything for everyone. There's just not enough time. Can I just duplicate myself? These are the types of things that I hear from people all the time. Time is a huge one, and it just always comes into productivity and organizing. So what if I told you that time is just a concept? We're taught that time is linear. And I don't know if anyone's heard of the book 10x is easier than 2x. They talk about an interesting thing about Kairos versus, which is an older Egyptian, Greek. It goes back to the Greek times of time. But just think once in a while when you're in something you love, you're doing, you're in the zone, and it feels like only a minute's passed, but it's been an entire hour. And then there's the other times where you're maybe sitting in a waiting room or you're waiting for something and it feels like it's been an hour and it's only been a minute. Well, that's the idea of just thinking that time is so different depending on if we're just constantly scheduling and looking at it in a linear way. So we want to feel more like the latter, right? Getting lost in what you're doing, what you love to do. What if we can create time for you? So according to Forbes, the typical executive today wastes 150 hours a year, almost 1 month, searching for lost information. For someone earning $50,000 a year, that translates to a loss of $3,842. This is what I found on statistics. So, and a typical US worker is interrupted by communications technology every 10 minutes. That's from the Institute for Future and Gallup. Then 80% of papers and information that we keep, we never use. And that's from Agency Sales Magazine. My organizing mentor from Productive Environment always talks about the 80-20 rule. And it really is true because I've helped people dig through a lot of stuff and really you're generally using 20% of what you have. So what if we could collapse time? In other words, save you more of your precious time. So getting and staying organized helps save time, and it allows for what some people call white space. I'm also now calling it island time. Because just think about everyone knows when you go on vacation, things take a little slower, take a little longer, but they call it island time. So really it's that space that's free, and are you putting that in your calendar? Because the more that you can have some downtime or time to yourself to rejuvenate, it makes you more productive in the long run. So let's do a little experiment exercise I have on your sheet if you have the handout. Um, how much if you can take out, I don't know if you have your calendars in front of you or if you have your phone, don't do anything on your phone or check anything to keep us on task. But if you just look at your calendar, if you can see your calendar and see like a week ahead, how much what I call island time, or if you were to say you have white space, do you see in your calendar? And I have a little checklist on the handout, but if you, I know when I take mine, get your calendar, I have the iPhone. So if you turn it this way, are you seeing any kind of white space in there? That's really something to think about. And I want you to think about putting more white space in there if it's super full. So are you in the 0 to 5%, 10, 25%, maybe 50? And thinking about how many hours a week would you ideally like to have free space, or what I call island time, in your calendar. Your homework is to go into your next week's calendar and set some of your free white space, island time, whatever you want to call it. And even if it's 1 hour, that's great. Start with an hour a week and it can be broken up. If you're giving yourself a good 15 minutes a day just to do something to give you space, really does help with productivity in the long run. So here's the thing, we can work smarter, not harder. One of my favorite clients, we did a time mapping exercise that I do with my clients, and with her, and from the simple exercise of just kind of plotting out the week, where you want to do things and when, and then having the flexibility of when you don't have choice with meetings and things that are set up. But we were really able to save her about 5 hours time each week, giving her a sustainable system to continue to collapse the time and to work more in flow. So in order to do this, we must calm the chaos. And that's where we go into the last D that I have for doing it differently. Discover clarity for calming the chaos. So if you can, this is where I have people think about the energy that's in your workspace. If you can close your eyes for just 30 seconds, picture yourself walking into your office space and take a look around the space. Notice what areas create anxiety for you. Is it piles of paper on your desktop, or maybe they're spilling over onto the floor? There's stacks of stuff or items that don't belong in there. Maybe it's sticky notes all over your computer screen, or a jumble of icons on your computer or screen desktop. Notice what comes up for you. Do you feel anything different? Do you feel anxiety, overwhelm, frustration? Maybe you're just feeling like you want to run away, because I know sometimes when my office becomes the dumping ground, because I do have a home office, sometimes you just want to go away. So if you have, I don't know if you guys can have a blank piece of paper, but what I do with people when I talk in person is, if you have a piece of paper and pen, just grab it, and I want you to take 30 seconds to either write something down or draw out how it makes you feel when your office or space is feeling cluttered and overwhelming. I don't know if anyone wants to share what's coming up. Take a couple quick shares. Emma, if you have anything that comes up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, so just thinking about my office space and desk space and stuff, I actually can't focus on my work task unless my desk is like clean and organized. So I always like make that a priority around me, but I still have my spots. So like back here, and then also my actual desktop of my computer, get very messy. And I always say like my desktop on my computer is a reflection of my brain when there's a lot on it. That's when I'm like really stressed out, and I have a lot to do because I am a very organized person. And so when my desktop gets messy, like on my computer, like it definitely does bring me a lot of anxiety. I feel like I have a lack of time. I definitely have a time conversation. And so I am curious to your previous point of like, how much time do I really set aside for myself? Because I fill up my day 24/7, like the nights and weekends, I use up. So I just always think that I have so much to do. But then taking it to like myself is like when I think about that is I get very uptight. So I'm very reactionary, versus like responding to situations. And then I know I carry my stress in my back. So thinking about like my clean desktop, I feel relaxed. Thinking about my messy desktop, I just like, yeah, get uptight.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's so true. It's interesting because I found an article once too saying how much our stuff is a reflection of us and how we're feeling too. That's interesting you say that about the desktop. Um, yeah, that's great. One of the things that I've found, I don't know if anyone's heard of the Dr. David R. Hawkins wrote books called Power versus Force and The Map of Consciousness. And it's super interesting. I'll have to send it out because I can't share from here. But it just talks about the emotions we have, and like shame and guilt are at the bottom. And it also shows that when you're kind of forcing things versus being in power, and not overpowering, but just kind of being in your own power and having things the way things are flowing, the tipping point is courage, the emotion of courage. So I always tell people, if you can take that one step to, put aside 20 minutes, and just let some stuff go, whether it's papers at home. It's always tough. I know, like taking the courage of saying, hey, Aunt Matilda that gave me this item that sits in my dining room, do I really like it every time I walk by it? And if you don't take the courage to say, someone else is going to enjoy this, and it'll bring a lot more clarity to having the things that you really like around you. Um, and I have clients think about the five senses. So, especially in your office, if you're spending a lot of time around, and I know probably in this group, you guys travel a lot too. So, having something where, like for me, if you say, okay, the sense of smell, I like to either have a diffuser with essential oils that bring, good feelings to me in the smell that I enjoy. Having the visual, if you have, a picture or something on your wall that's inspiring, even if it's just a quote. I know I've heard with feng shui, if you have a picture of a tree or something that has growth, that's actually really good for an office space too. And then sensory stuff, like music, and when it comes to auditory, if there's just like kind of the background mellow music to kind of tune you into what you're doing and help you focus, just thinking about those things that you enjoy and having that in your space. Um, so this is why I love people to have like people to do this exercise, because I always tell people, if you're, and a lot of times I know, especially if we have a home office or even an office space, a lot of times there's either corners of your office or the whole thing that just becomes kind of a dumping ground, because the what my mentor calls postponed decisions, right? Everything when it comes to organizing, whether it's paper stuff, digital, it all comes down to making the decisions on what needs to be done with those items. So I've left Emma with a form to pass out for anyone to keep in touch with me. There's a couple boxes on there to fill out for a free discovery call. If you'd like to get more information on what I'm doing, you can sign up for email. So just kind of going back over what we've talked about, doing it differently stands for diving into the deep end and mastering your mind. Island time, bringing some of that fun time and white space into your calendar. And D again for discover clarity for calming the chaos. And I know Jimmy Dean was a very wise man. Hopefully, you like that quote. I like to say, when we have the courage to let go of our anchors, we can be free like the sea. And I'm happy to have any questions if you guys have questions. Oh, I can't. You're muted. Emma, you're muted. I can't hear you. Oh, there you go. Wait, it got muted again.
Other questions?
Or I'm curious for the white spaces that you're suggesting, and God knows I need more of them. Do you find it necessary, and I do at times, and I'm just not very good at it, of ending a task, even though it's not complete, knowing that I have something scheduled that I have to work on at a particular time, and so setting it aside rather than just pouring over it and moving on.
That's good. Yeah, or I would say, is there times or like parts of it? So maybe if it's broken down into smaller parts and you say, okay, I'm going to work on this part during the time I have allotted. Yeah. Either thinking it that way, or it is tough, I think, to switch tasks. And the other thing to think of too, so I use, there's a woman, Julie Morgenstern, I use her time map with clients. I was talking about the time map. And she does a great job in a book she wrote about what time of day your energy. So some people, if you're a morning person, maybe you put the stuff that, you need more mental energy for in the morning, or if you're not a morning person, putting that stuff in the afternoon. So sometimes think about that way too, like blocking out the time that you can. Okay. And I always tell people, I don't know if you do this or not, but really having that time for yourself to actually work on things. I know some people, like, they might just dive into whatever they need to do next. One of the best things too is maybe just taking a little time at the end of the week, Friday afternoon, and having a plan for the following week. And looking.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Max. Any other questions? Oh, Jenny?
Yeah. Hey there. Sorry, my voice is a little bit weird right now. I have a cold. But thanks, Heidi, for this chat. I wondered if there were any new tools out there that we should be aware of. Obviously, we all use Outlook and email and whatnot, but like there's a lot of AI things coming out. Like, are there any productivity things that you've seen that you're starting to use for yourself that you might recommend?
There's so many. I think depends on the person. I know is there any particular thing like work-wise or just kind of keeping up with your daily stuff?
Yeah, I just wonder, I guess maybe related to email specifically in the management. So like I don't have a clean inbox. I like what you said about the folders. I have like 100 folders where I move things, which is the opposite of what you're suggesting, but at least I move some things out of there. But yeah, I guess as it relates, to just like time management on email.
Yeah, when it comes to email, I talked to a colleague of mine this because she actually wrote a book about Gmail, and I was using one of the I don't even know if they're around. I can't remember what it was called. It was like kind of supposed to clear out your email for you, but then she's like, it's like, is it really unsubscribing? Like, what's it doing? Yeah. So for email, my suggestion, the best is when you have time, if you have a weekend, and just like in front of the TV or something, really just digging through the old stuff and deleting when you can. And then using the tools that you already have within. Do you have Outlook?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even like simple things like the view, like as one of my coworkers was showing me that she's stacking her calendar and then tasks underneath her calendar and they roll over from one day to the next. And I was like, wow, I've never even tried that before. So, and she has multiple time zones in there. They're just like some tips and tricks that I guess that you don't know that you're missing because you just never had exposure to them. So yeah, I just wondered if there's anything Outlook related that you could like light bulb moment for us.
Yeah, I don't have as many for Outlook because it
Okay.
changes so much. And it really depends on the person. Like, I personally don't like to see the view. Like, I just like to see
Okay.
stacked. But I can tell you the best thing, because when I do have clients that don't have Outlook, the thing that drives me crazy is that the best part of Outlook is you can sort by who sent it to you.
Oh yeah.
And you don't realize how much of an amazing simple
Yes.
thing that is
Totally.
when you don't get it. And that's what I do a ton. That's the best way I keep up with email. Because if you get a ton from one and it's like, oh, this is all stuff I don't even need, and I let that go.
Cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I did like that little point about the emails as well, of like creating those separate folders of like to read or the ones that require action. For me personally, in my inbox, I also file everything in a folder, but I leave all my emails that still have a task required to them left in my inbox until it's handled. But oftentimes there are, I think I have about 54 of them right now, that then going back trying to find those or like making sure I hit a certain deadline and stuff can be tough on some of those emails. So just by categorizing them to read, because some of the emails are, newsletters or something that someone has sent to me that it doesn't have an action to it, but I want to read it, by pulling those ones out and setting in a separate folder, I think will be really handy.
Yeah, one of the best tips I've gotten to for email really is when you're and first of all is maybe putting time in your calendar to process email. Like, give yourself a good half an hour or something, depending on your, a couple times a day or however it works for you. But having that set time uninterrupted to just process them, and anything 2 minutes or less, you can take care of, do it then. And if it's going to take longer, that's where you have those folders to make sure you set up time for the actions that need to take place for more time.
Good. Any other questions, or did anybody else want to share anything about their like cluttered space and how they deal with that? Thing? No? All right.
Willful ignorance.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming today. As mentioned, this is recorded, so we will share it with everybody. And I'll share Heidi's contact information and a follow-up handout that she has for everybody as well. Yeah.
I think in the one I have, not sure what we called it on the thing. But just the little check boxes to check back in with me. I'm offering 20% off if anybody would want to do a package or need some one-to-one help. I'm happy to do that. So I think there's a link for it's called the clutter evaluation, and then there's a box towards the end after the evaluation just to put in a discount. And if you want a free discovery call too, I'm always happy to just do free discovery calls, little tips that you might need that can help do that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
See you
Heidi.
guys soon.
Bye.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks,
Bye,
Heidi.
thank you.